Hi, I'm Baldwin van Gorp from the Institute for Media Studies of KU Leuven, and I'm going to give a short talk on the role of the media in avoiding stigmatization. With regard to the representation of dementia in the media, we can conclude that it is rather problematic. And the reason for that is that the representation of dementia is also related to other topics. And there is the framing of psychological disorders, the framing of older people, of health and sickness. And that means that the representation of dementia is coming in a kind of perfect storm with regard to its portrayal. For instance, this example, if you look at how newspapers routinely use their picture database, they come up with pictures like this. This was a story about a research which concluded that 1 out of 7 cannot organize their emails. But the research was clearly not oriented towards older people, but to the general population. But the journalist picked routinely a picture of an older woman in front of a computer screen. And this is an example of how stereotypical pictures are frequently used in the media to represent older people. And this is another example of the boredom of a perpetual holiday of older people enjoying a day at sea. This is, of course, the pre-corona, but also now with the corona going on, the pandemic, and we see that the representation of older people is really problematic. And this is only about older people, and with dementia, because it is associated as a disease linked to older people, that it becomes only more problematic. Of course, dementia, how can you depict dementia? It's not that easy. And there is also another dilemma here, that they are vulnerable people and that journalists try to avoid to portray them. So they are looking for all kind of metaphorical alternatives, and then they come up with, but it's not only in the media, let's be clear. I mean, in the news media, this is more in general, light bulbs and puzzle pieces and a labyrinth and an exploding brain. So they focus, the media indicate that dementia or Alzheimer's disease is something going on in the brain. And then the most problematic part here is, of course, the metaphor of a plant. And I think that this relates to the Cartesian dualism, in which we represent people as being composed of two parts. You have the mind and the body, and also the mind is superior in comparison to the body. So this means that if you use that Cartesian dualism as a lens or a prism to define what dementia actually is, then it is something that is taking people's mind away. It's taking their identity. It's taking away their personality. And what's left is only a plant. It's not human anymore. I think this is a very important thing to keep in mind ethically also when dealing with people with dementia. Another dominant narrative in the media is that of science. Science which is looking for a cure, for a way to help these people. But also here we can see that sometimes the patient disappears behind the diagnosis. Another interesting narrative when it comes to science communication with regard to Alzheimer is the idea or the frame, there is hope. Hope in science, faith in progress. And here is a kind of communication strategy used by scientists to approach the media, and it's picked up rather easily by the news media. And that's the idea of breakthroughs in science. And you can find a lot of them on the internet, and a neuron breakthrough, Alzheimer's breakthrough, blood test breakthrough, all with regard to search for Alzheimer's cure. And I think it's really a strategy. And of course, I'm not an expert in this, so I can't say this is a real breakthrough and this isn't a breakthrough. But I think that in the press releases of scientists, I noticed that sometimes it says it's a breakthrough, because then it's more easily picked up by the media. And then in the end of the story, it always says, but more research is needed, so please invest more money in research into Alzheimer's. And I think it's an ethical thing we should take into consideration there. Is it false hope? Is it real hope? Is it, of course, it's also an idea of the battle for scarce resources, where we see that, for instance, research into cancer is perceived as more, and there is still not any real good cure either, but we see that I think it's related to the idea that if dementia is something of older people and cancer, well, also a child can have cancer, maybe we should invest more in the cancer research and not in Alzheimer's research. I think there is also, again, the idea of older people and investing in older people that probably are going to die of another disease. I think that's also something to take into consideration here for media, but also for people who function as a source for these media and looking for media attention. A rather recent idea, which is can also be found in the media, is the idea of that, let's say, a personal responsibility in it. Of course, for prevention, healthy food, only one glass of red wine a day, train your brain, also do some sports. And here we see, and that's interesting, I think it's after, I think it was in the Lancet, that there was an article who says there is some relationship between healthy behavior and prevention for getting Alzheimer's disease or other forms of dementia. So, but the flip side of that kind of medal is that then you come to a responsibility, an own responsibility. And it can mean that people who got dementia, that they did something wrong and that they have a hand in the disease. It's not a random chosen thing. So that's also something to discuss and to think about. To what extent can we say that you can do something about it? Now, okay, what are strategies to prevent stigma? First of all, we should all be more aware of stereotypes that are guiding our way of thinking and talking and discussing about all kinds of issues. And as I told you, dementia is related to our thinking about psychological disorders and older people, so it's complex. And I'm also admit that I make mistakes in this. A couple of weeks ago, I said to my wife, "Oh, I saw the wife of the dentist in the shop." And then I realized, why am I saying the wife of the dentist? Because she is a dentist herself. She and her husband are both dentists, but she is the wife of the dentist and he is the dentist. So and I said, oh, I can't say that anymore. They are both dentists. So that's a gender bias of me. Now, okay, so become more aware of this kind of stereotypical, biased thinking of all kind of issues. I think a way which could help us is first think of the idea that you should fight dementia. And it comes, of course, from, on the one hand, from fighting cancer, but also there I noticed that people who got cancer, they don't like the idea of fighting. You can't do much than just listen and hope and listen to the doctors. But with regard to dementia, it's more complex. Fight against Alzheimer's. You can't recover from Alzheimer's, right? Why fight then? But this relates also, and that's the other aspect I was referring to, is also science. Science who says we should try to fight Alzheimer's, but it does not mean that a single person can fight Alzheimer's. Here we thought of a kind of counterframe of representing Alzheimer's, of dementia, as something outside the person. You can't fight. You shouldn't fight the monster and the thief and it's Mr. Alzheimer. At a certain moment in your life, the uninvited guest stands on in front of your door, and who is this? And then it's your new unexpected traveling companion who's going to join you during the rest of your life. And but you should try to take things in your own hands. He can leave a lot of mess, but you try to make the best of it, of your joint journey. And I think also the idea of a journey is also helpful in to express the idea of coping with dementia. It's doing something you can do, making your journey with a companion, and try to enjoy little things in life. And it's with ups and downs, your journey for all of us, and we try to make the best of it. This also intriguing pictures of older persons with dementia and playing with a doll, for instance. When we were doing our research, we thought, oh, this is a really problematic kind of picture. But in the end, we understood that it's also it's actually a kind of counter framing, because here we see people returning back to their childhood, and actually they are enjoying. It's only from the outside and seen from some norms that this can be perceived as problematic. So they making a full circle and returning back and to the childhood. Inhibitions fall away, and we see in fact a joyful picture. And another thing is, of course, try to represent. I worked with drawings here, but why not using real pictures of real people with dementia? And this was an initiative of the Flemish government, and you can find these pictures on onthouwmens.be, and forget dementia and remember the person. These pictures are freely available from a database, and they can be used without copyrights. And they present a completely other picture than the stereotypical images you sometimes see of people who are enjoying little things of life during their journey, having Alzheimer's, coping with it. And I think it's a good initiative, and also something that should help to destigmatize people with dementia. So this was my short talk. You can email me if you want. I have a website. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram. And I have also another TEDx talk on framing. And maybe you can take a look at that. Thank you for listening, and I'm looking forward to your comments and questions. Thank you.